We are back, folks, after what seemed like an eternity without golf, although it was just a few weeks. It seemed like forever, especially over the holidays. Worry no more. 11 straight months of golf with no more hiatus, Zachary.
Fantastic.
How excited is this right now?
Was golf gone? I guess I didn't really...
All right, before we get started, you clearly want to talk about something, so why don't you tell our viewers about that? What happened?
I mean, football season this year was very good to me, and as you can see, the league that I was in here with my partner, he has his name on the trophy a number of times. My father has his name on the trophy a number of times. My name will now finally go on the trophy for the very first time, and that's a really special thing for me. So we're having a little bit of a moment tonight, because as you know, love may last a lifetime, but fantasy football is immortality. So I'm just gonna hold on to this.
Congratulations, Zach! You finally win it. So way to go!
Beautiful.
Welcome everybody. This is FGI TV. I'm Jeff Bergerson. For those of you who are new, my screen name is JT Bergerson on DFS sites. Zach Turcotte, my partner, mysteriously is his screen name. We are with FantasyGolfInsider.com, your #1 resource for all things fantasy golf. Check us out, become a premium member. We got a lot of great new content on there and looking forward to this season. Check out our podcast on iTunes. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes to us now. We're on there. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just click that little subscribe button underneath the video. We do this webcast every single week of the season, so be sure to tune into us every week. We added some twists this year. So those of you who've been with us a while, we got some new stuff brewing this coming year. Follow us on Twitter at Fantasy Golfers. Check out our brand new store. We have an online store now with some of our gear. Zach's got one on, I got one on. A lot of cool stuff on there, so be sure to check that out on our website. Always feel free to email us too at info@fantasygolfinsider.com or directly Jeff at Fantasy Golf Insider, Zach at Fantasy Golf Insider. Zachary.
Yes, yes sir. We have some business to attend to.
We have some business to attend to. We don't have a recap since there wasn't a tournament the last couple of weeks, and I don't think anyone really gives a damn about the Franklin Templeton shootout. No, so, no, I don't think so. Didn't get a lot of feedback. Although I did watch it, but I did watch quite a bit of it. But
yeah, I couldn't wager on it, so I skipped that one.
There you go. We'll just go right into Shots of the Week, which we hear from you folks all the time is your favorite segment. So we are psyched, and this is a surprise for Zach. I have not shared what are my shots of the week that I...
needles over here. Don't keep me waiting. Don't keep me waiting.
So the first one, and we don't have actual tournament to go off of shots, so we just kind of went off the cuff this week and came up with some highlights during the last few weeks. The first one is actually a complimentary shot. And for those of you who have been with us a while, you know a little bit about how we joke the story of Daniel Berger and his girlfriend last season, right? So Daniel Berger starts out the season playing really good golf. He's dating some gal in grad school, and all of a sudden she has her summer break and supposedly is traveling with him, and he proceeds to miss 7 straight cuts in the summer.
It's a thing of beauty, really. Went from a 40% ownership level down to about a 1% ownership level.
So he was playing awful golf in the summer when she was traveling with him. Then, at the end of August, when school goes back into session, she doesn't travel with him, and he starts kicking ass again.
Finds his form. What a surprise, right?
It all didn't make sense to me. I'm like, how can she be this bad that his game just goes in the tank?
You get that drama out of your life, you'd be surprised what you could do as a man.
I didn't understand it, but I finally did. Yeah. Last week on Twitter, Daniel Berger posted a picture of him and his girlfriend, and we'll put it up here for you right now. Zachary, check this out. That's Daniel Berger's girlfriend. And suddenly, the light bulb came on.
Right. Yeah.
I get it now.
Yeah.
It's also very clear to me. No explanation needed, Daniel. Congratulations, and I'm actually going to do a shot to you.
Cheers to you.
Nice work.
And to you.
I'm just going to plan accordingly this coming season, Daniel. We're just going to plan on that happening. I'll be on your bandwagon until about June, and then I'm going to jump off.
Like, so when Jimmy Walker comes on in the wintertime, Pat Perez in the wintertime, and then all of a sudden Daniel Berger joins that crew of being guys we don't like at all in the summertime then.
So no explanation needed. I understand now.
And add that one to the list.
That's right. And then we'll be back on board the end of August.
Yeah, right.
When the FedEx Cup playoffs come.
Exactly.
Yep. So
I remember watching him at the Deutsche Bank too, and thinking, so what's happening here? All of a sudden, the guy can hit the ball again. I think I remember David Frey, Jabberwock, tweeted out. I don't even think it was at him. He said, "Oh, look, everybody, look! Daniel Berger just made a cut," and Berger tweeted back, "I don't think anybody cares." We love you, Daniel.
Yeah,
you were fantasy golf gold at a few points last season for a couple of winning teams that we put together. So.
And that picture is actually with Patrick Rogers, whose girlfriend is also extremely attractive too.
Right.
So well done, boys.
Yeah. Congratulations on being pro golfers and having a lot of money and being able to get a good one. Amazingly difficult to do, I'm sure, when you have that kind of money and you're a pro athlete.
Second shot of the week, number 2. Are you ready for this? Do you need a drum roll?
Do we got a re-pour?
No. No, that's all right. Now, this was probably the biggest shot of the last few weeks. And it was the one that Ellie Day took from LeBron James when she was sitting courtside. And we'll put up that picture here. You can kind of see her flailing backwards.
Yeah, and they took her off on a stretcher.
They took her off on a stretcher.
So LeBron James, now he has the decision and the collision. So.
Now I have a question for you. I want your take on this. I heard this on Twitter, and you can see on the picture here.
No, I know what you're going to ask, and I'm going to just read your mind and say I would get the hell out of the way.
Oh, okay, Jason.
If a 6'8" LeBron James is charging headfirst at me, I'm headed for the hills. We've had this talk before. Baseball games, foul ball gets hit in my direction, I'm out of there.
You're out of there.
Care. Whatever direction.
So wife destroyed by
I might push her in front of it to shield my face.
He's bailing out of the way.
Yes, I mean I'm not getting anywhere near any of this. I mean, I guess Jason Day was supposed to just dive in front of him and get gored on his way over. I mean, he's the bread maker right there. How much money did he make last year for the family? He could go from hero to zero just like that by taking the charge. You're not taking a charge right there. Don't be a hero. Anybody, don't be a hero in that situation. Jason knew what he was doing. His wife is tough. She sucked it up.
Apparently, yeah. She got hauled off on a stretcher.
Yeah,
it was pretty crazy.
Right, she's fine. She's fine. He's going to make millions this year. He'll be able to give her a bag or a gift or an enormous diamond to make up for that.
And he actually decided to play golf this week.
Why wouldn't
It's like, well, football season's over. He can't parade out to football games anymore and basketball games.
So he's done with all of his fantasy teams now. I'm thinking that's why he took the fall off like a lot of other folks do. They didn't play any golf or any fantasy golf in the fall. So I think maybe Jason wanted to just focus in on his DraftKings teams. Oh, wait, that's right. The PGA wants nothing to do with DraftKings.
Well, that just came out of that.
No matter how many zeros you could put on the end of that DraftKings, they're just not going to get on board until all those stodgy old guys are finished running the sport. So.
Right.
Oh, well.
So what'd you think of the shots of the week? Solid?
I loved it.
All right.
I always love it.
All right.
Fantastic.
Good deal. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. This year, we're also, in addition to Shots of the Week, that's not going away. We have a new contest and a new segment. Zachary, you want to talk about this? You guys are going to love this.
This is my brainchild right here. So last summer, we started doing some interesting wagers. Obviously, it started out myself and Roger Casey, just some small stuff here. And there, conversation back and forth that escalated very quickly into the infamous Jason Bone Crab Legs bet, which I won in overwhelming fashion at the PGA Championship. I thought Roger was a total sucker for taking that bet. But along the way, there were a lot of other people who wanted to join in on the side action. And there's still a couple unpaid bets out there. There's a couple of drinks that I think I'm owed in cities around the country. So I need to do a little traveling to collect a couple cocktails. Right. So one individual who wanted to wager against me, he sent me a picture. He said, "Here's what I'll wager. I'll wager a bird feeder for one of your shirts."
That was good.
What the bird? What do I? And I thought, you know what? That's not bad. That's an interesting idea.
Yep.
Why don't we have a segment, which we are now going to be announcing, called Wacky Wagers. So, Wacky Wagers, we'll do this every single week. It's going to be a one-on-one battle. Each of you out there can submit ideas throughout the golf season of some sort of wacky item that you would like to wager against an item of our swag. So if you look in the store, you're going to see about 10 different items. You're going to see hats, you're going to see shirts, these pullovers that we've got, sweatshirts. So each week we will put up a different item. What we want you guys to do is to get onto Twitter, tweet to us a picture of what it is that you want to wager each week, and we'll just keep a group of these nominations throughout the year and then choose one every week. I'll send out a link to you at your username. We'll each put in a lineup, and at the end of the week, whoever the winner is, we'll get to collect on the bet, and we'll talk about it each week on the show.
Oh, in addition to wacky items, if they want one of these sweet polos, it better be...
You gotta up the ante. You gotta up the ante.
This is not gonna... A bird feeder is not gonna get you one of these things.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not gonna take anybody's rusty hammer for a nice polo.
So make the offers good, make them wacky, whatever.
Make them creative,
make
them fun, and so I think that would be a great way for us to interact with folks throughout the season.
Yep. So. And then you'll set up a contest, heads up, and
we'll send a link out so people can watch it over the weekend.
There you go.
So we're excited. It should be a lot of fun, and hopefully
I like it.
Hopefully I'll just fill the shelf with trophies to go with this lovely beauty over here.
Do you have a soft spot in your heart for Barry Manilow paraphernalia? If that gets offered up?
How could I resist?
There's a little tip for people. Yeah. So, all right. On to this week's tournament.
Yeah, there's an actual tournament.
There is a tournament this week, kind of a partial tournament.
Yeah,
it's the Hyundai Tournament of Champions. The winners of each event last year are invited.
You just get a little bite-sized one this week. Yeah.
Yep, we got to ease into it. So next week at the Sony, we'll have a full field event. This is just a 32-man event. There's 32 guys. Not everyone who won tournaments last year just... They didn't feel like playing, I guess, 1.1 million in a 30-player field in Hawaii. Wasn't enough incentive for Rory, Justin Rose.
But do they have this person on their hip? Maybe they have that on their hip.
Yeah, well, I guess if they're traveling with them.
Enjoy that anywhere outside of Hawaii.
Yikes.
So, I don't know.
So it's being played, like Zach said, in Kapalua, Maui, Hawaii, at the Plantation course, which is super sweet. It's a par 73 course. It checks in at 7,452 yards long. Now, many of you, not necessarily you, but a lot of people are going to see that distance and assume
bombers, right? Bombers.
Load up on bombers. Not necessarily the case. If you look at results over the last 8 years, it's far from bombers because there's a lot of elevation changes. There's a super long hole. And it's not favoring the bombers. Now, Dustin Johnson has played well in this tournament. He's a bomber. However, in the year he won it, he was the second best putter in the field.
Plays well on almost any kind of course, though.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're that great of a ball striker, there's not a lot of courses that are out there. I mean, the only thing that's really going to kill him ever is his putting. So it's really going to be the trickiest of greens that might.
Speaking of putting, that's huge this week.
Yeah.
He actually did putt well when he won this tournament. We look back and look at who's performed well on the greens and correlate it to the leaderboards, and it's crazy how big putting is this week. A lot more than usual. So we're going to look real closely at strokes gained putting. We're also going to look at our standard strokes gained tee to green, par 4 scoring, birdie or better average. That's about it. Driving accuracy is very forgivable
these
on
things
this.
are almost as wide as they are long.
Right,
so,
right.
So that's why, when you see some of these names that are going to pop up here tonight, then it shouldn't be a surprise,
right?
Because it's difficult to get into trouble off the tee.
Yep.
You got to work to it. You got to be like me or you off the tee in order to get into trouble. Particularly me in that case.
So we can start the field. Starts with Jordan Spieth at 12,500 on DraftKings and goes down to Troy Merritt at 6,600.
And this is what we're going to have to deal with all season, I think. This is slowly going to become the decision, especially when you get the big three in there, when you get Spieth, McIlroy, and Day, then I think it won't be quite as big. But these tournaments where Spieth comes in as that top guy at 12,500, boy, that is going to be a gut check every week to try to decide, do I put him onto my roster this week? Is he a guy I can go all in with? Is he 12,500, then you're immediately down to 7,500 per player.
Right.
I'm not as excited. There's a few names at the bottom of the field, but boy, it's tough.
It is. I'm very torn. I love Jordan Spieth this week. Yeah. I really do. And I want to try and find him on some of my rosters, but like you said, you really got to sacrifice the rest of your roster to get him on your squad. Generally, and especially cash games, go toward a balanced approach. as opposed to a Stars and Scrubs. I'm not going to be playing a lot of cash this week. I'm going to be playing mostly GPP.
Yeah.
Just because there's no cut this week, so everyone's going to have 4 rounds. So those newbies who are playing golf aren't going to be penalized greatly for going off the wall and taking guys who are going to miss the cut and cost them dearly. The worst place finish is still going to get place finisher points on DK.
So you're going to have to be aggressive in all formats, really.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to have to be aggressive in finding those guys, really zeroing in on those 3 or 4 guys you think can win the event. Just stacking them onto your roster over and over again, finding 1 or 2 guys that are a little bit closer to the bottom. Because, again, you can take some chances there. If you throw a guy on at the bottom of this list and he's not doing so well after 2 rounds, well, at least you've got him all weekend long to give you some points. And positional points are going to be minimized because DraftKings gives you points, I think, if you're in the top 50.
Yeah. So you get 1 point, like 40th through 50th.
So whoever's in 32nd place is still going to get like 3 points. So that distance is going to be minimized a little bit this week as well. And there are some names at the bottom that I am not even going to consider.
No, me neither. Now, that being said, last year I took runner-up in the $300 on DraftKings for this tournament. I had the top 3 place finishers on that roster. So you're going to have to hit it on the screws to win one of these bigger GPPs, which is the really tricky part.
Yeah.
So I might tend to maybe drop down from Spieth and try and get the most players that I feel that can finish top 3 on the team rather than going a Spieth and then having to settle for a guy who, a JJ Henry or something like that to save.
Oh, don't let yourself settle for JJ Henry ever. I won't let you do that, my friend.
What tournament did he win to get in this? Barbasol?
That's no. That was Piercy, I think.
Was
Piercy
that?
won the
I thought it was Barbasol. Oh, I can't remember what JJ Henry won to get in this thing,
Barracuda?
but Barracuda maybe.
Perhaps it was Barracuda.
One of the
and
2 B meaningless tournaments, I think.
Piercy and JJ Henry won Barracuda and Barbasol. I can't remember which was which.
Which one was
I
which?
know those are the 2. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So up top, who do you like between Spieth, Day, Bubba, DJ?
We talked about the decision with Spieth. I do like Spieth a little bit, but I think when looking at the teams I put together, I wasn't a huge fan of what came after that. So I think if I make, for every 5 or 6 GPP teams I make, I probably will have Spieth on one. So maybe 20% of my teams in GPPs, I will probably throw Spieth in there just because I think he's got a good shot. Jason Day, he's taken the last basically 3-4 months. Well, he was in the Tour Championship at the end of September. It's like 3 months. So he hasn't played in a little over 3 months. But I'm not as excited. I'll let him work off some of that rust a little bit. So I think I would skip him.
I agree with that.
Take a look at DJ because he's played well, obviously, here before. He's been a winner at this event. And didn't do anything really special in the fall. Nothing that was too terribly notable. Kind of up and down a little bit. He'd be a name that I would look at just because, given his strengths, he should fit this course pretty well. I think Bubba is probably the first name that I stop at and say, okay, here's a guy who definitely has a lot of potential. The over the years he's played okay here.
Yeah, he's played pretty well.
But his game, I think, is in a new place. After we watched him last year,
at the Hero, he looked crazy.
Yeah, he was great there. He elevated his game a lot last year, particularly in and around the greens was where he turned it on. And that's a big area that's going to be important this week. So I think if you start out at the top, I think a guy like Bubba is a guy who I'll be definitely looking to roster quite a bit. I don't think that's going to be any secret. I see him being fairly highly owned.
I do too. The one note on Bubba is the winds generally kick up in Kapalua and become dramatic. I looked at the weather. They're not very great right now. They're not expected to be. That could obviously change, but a max of 10 to 15 miles an hour.
A little bit gets into Bubba's head.
A little bit gets into his head. If it's 20 plus, and he generally struggles with wind.
It's blowing his little brain from side to side all over the place up there. Yeah.
I like Ricky Fowler.
Yeah.
He can putt. He's been playing well, and I think his game fits this course as well. So I might...
It's hard to say, when you look at this list, you want to say, oh, this guy will be highly owned, this guy, but then you have to step back almost. You look at that top 10 of guys that are up there, well, almost all of them are going to be
I think popular. All of those guys will. Actually, the next guy down is who I think will be the highest owned, which is too bad, and that's Patrick Reed.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Pat Mayo.
I like Patrick Reed a lot this week. What's not to like? Sure. Really, I mean, he won this tournament last year. His current form is
Yeah, I mean he can get a little
hot.
he can get a little crazy off the tee, but this is the course where you can be a little wild off the tee and not be penalized nearly as much. And yeah, like I said, if you're looking at guys who played a lot in the fall, Reed was all over the place. He's playing in the U.S. events, he's playing in the European events. So.
European, and he had a bunch of top tens. He's probably the best golfer in the last 3 months, I would say. He didn't win anything.
Kisner's been very good too.
Kisner's been good as well.
He's also been really good. He's up there too. He might be a guy who sneaks up on folks just because of all the other big names.
With the big names, I think Kisner might slide under the radar a little bit.
I think
he's at 9,200.
I think people might ignore Zach Johnson a little bit right here in this group of guys.
Maybe. He's had some success here, and he's always a popular name, but it's like surrounded by Koepka.
That many guys. That's what you have to
Reed.
look for. I think in a regular tournament, Zach Johnson, you see his name stand out in the 9,000 range, and that's a guy you circle right there to put on your team. But this week, I think a lot of people will go up to Patrick Reed, or they'll start dropping down into that Brooks Koepka and Justin Thomas range. And I think those two guys, I think Koepka and Thomas is the guy I would say will be maybe the highest owned guy of the week, given his price and given some of the success that he had in the fall when he got his first win, which was huge for him, get that monkey off his back. And I think that's going to propel him. I'm going to say that Justin Thomas wins another tournament this season, and at 8,700, just a little bit above the average price, he's going to find his way onto a ton of rosters, especially in a field this small. Wouldn't surprise me to see him at the 45-50% range.
I was chatting about it with Pat Mayo a little bit today, and he thinks that he will be him and Koepka will be the two highest owned, and that it's a good strategy to fade them both. And I guess I'm kind of on board. As much as I like them, I think this would be a decent week to fade them. Yeah,
I mean, if you were going to play cash, it doesn't matter. You can play those guys in cash and not worry about it. GPP though, as we looked at in really tearing apart the data, and if you get a chance, what we're going to do is I did 4 parts on GPPs over the last 4 weeks. I thought it came out really well. You know, for the limited amount of data that we collected last year on about 25 different events, and then about the 15 or so that I focused on, we had some really great insights in terms of what to look for as far as roster construction. So we're going to give you probably till the end of the week. So if you're brand new, if you just got on the site, you just subscribed now, you haven't had a chance to check out the whole thing, do a little bit of research, go through each of those parts, kind of tear apart some of the data, some of the conclusions that we made. And that's why both these guys, I think, are a clear fade in tournament play. It's not that we don't think that they're going to play well. It's just given what we've seen in golf, you just can't have guys that are owned at that kind of level and expect to be distancing yourself from the field. Because even if you get them and they win, it's really still going to be dependent on the other 5 guys. But on weeks where you just skip those guys and they don't do as well, you're already ahead of such a huge amount of the field that it's already delivering you some value. So, you know, looking at that range, so that's at 8,700.
Yeah, so in that middle tier, who are you kind of targeting? Who are you liking in that, I don't know, 8,700 down to 73?
Well, I think if we look right below that, and we look at Graham McDowell. There's a guy who's been playing fantastic in the fall, which is fine. That's good. I think why I really like him is he had a really terrible season last year. The winter, spring, summer. He was bad.
He was awful.
Everywhere that he went. I mean, he started the year near that upper tier of salary level, and then just worked his way down as he missed cuts or just barely made cuts, or he did poor in the U.S., he did poor in Europe. And then in the fall, he turned it on and he started playing extremely well. He got a win, and here's another reason why I like him, because everybody who's been so football focused over the last few months, now they're going to look back and they're going to see McDowell and say 8,500 for McDowell. Why do I want McDowell for that price? I mean, that's silly. That's obviously not going to be everybody who's out there, but it'll be enough that it'll keep his ownership level just a little bit lower than what you'd expect. And I always like to try to target 1 or 2 guys around the guy who I think is going to be the highest owned, because that's the name that people are going to gravitate towards. They're going to gravitate towards Justin Thomas at 8,700, and they're going to skip right over Graham McDowell at 8,500. So I think that is a fantastic GPP play this week.
That's legit. Yeah, I like that. Dropping down to 8,000, I like Jimmy Walker a lot this week.
He's back, right?
He's back to
Winter
Hawaii.
Jimmy. DirecTV Jimmy in the winter.
He's been struggling with his tee to green game. He hasn't been accurate. He's been working with Butch Harmon to straighten that out. We've seen what Butch has done for Ricky Fowler in the last couple of years. Butch can straighten out. Hell, he might be able to straighten out your swing.
I wouldn't go
that would
that
be
far.
a true test. But
Yeah.
If Jimmy can get that straightened out, and this week it doesn't hurt him that bad to be inaccurate off the tee, and he can putt.
He'll just get to see different parts of the island.
He can putt, and I like him a lot this week. He's always played well at the Sony Open in Hawaii as well.
The only thing I don't like here, and here it gets back into GPP strategy again, is I think this is kind of out on Walker. Everybody has been talking about this. I mean, coming from late summer into fall, people would say, I'm fading Jimmy. He's not winter yet. I'll go back to him. I have a feeling at that $8,000 price tag,
I think
he's
going to
have huge ownership.
I agree.
So I think there's another case where if you're going to be in tournaments this week, it might just make more sense just to completely stay away. Let 40 or 45% own him, and then hope that his shitty form stays shitty.
Right.
And then you're off him while the rest of the field is on top of him. So I think he'll play all right because this is the kind of course that fits him really well. He can hit the ball a long ways, and he putts it. He was somehow stayed number 1 ranked putter. I mean, his putting must have just been phenomenally good during those first few months of the year, because as bad as it was in stretches toward the end of the year, I think he still ended up 1 or 2 in strokes gained putting near the end of the season. So again, I think that might be one where you think about it a little bit and think this is a guy who people are going to gravitate towards, because in and around there's not as many real exciting names for folks, so it might be a guy to fade a little bit.
The other guy kind of fit in, I think it was your last article, you talked about how do you find guys who are going to be low in ownership.
Sure.
And you said, and what would make them good plays. Don't just blindly pick guys who are going to be owned by 2% of the field, because you're going to win one of those per year when Troy Merritt wins the tournament.
That's the name I was thinking in my head too. Or Matt Every.
So have a catalyst, have something that you like.
Unless it's Bay Hill, then you pick Matt every time. Right?
Then you pick Matt Every. It ain't going to be this week, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But you had talked about bad current form, but having good course history and a good style that fits the course. This week it's Brandt Snedeker. He's a great putter. He has a good tournament history here, but his current form stinks. And when people open that, when they click his name and they open the DraftKings and it says miscut, miscut, miscut.
He's classically under-owned.
He is always under-owned, and he's not that cheap this week. 7,700, middle of the road.
Yeah,
but
right in the middle,
I just think for GPP purposes, I wouldn't touch him in cash, because a lot of times I'm thinking, there's something off with him. Why is he playing so poorly? He's a good player.
And he puts up a T23 and you're...
What's going on? So I have that question in my mind, like maybe there is something wrong with him, but so does everybody else, which is going to make a decent GPP play. And if you do that enough, you're going to hit some of them.
Yeah.
And then you're going to hit the big payday. So I will be mixing in quite a bit of Brandt Snedeker this week. I don't know. Might pay off, might not.
Yeah, and I think looking a little bit below there's a couple of names that I like down there too. Danny Lee was a guy who was fantastic come summer.
You're a Danny Lee guy.
It's kind of a love-hate relationship at this point.
What'd you think of him at CIMB?
Yeah, let's not think about him anymore on that one.
All right.
We'll let that one go. That one hurt a little bit, but I think he's a guy who can do pretty well here. He's a guy, again, who can get himself into trouble sometimes off the tee in stretches, but I don't think that's as big of an issue for him. He's a huge scoring threat, so when he gets on a roll, he can score again and again and again and put up a ton of points. And in looking in that range, I mean, at 7,500, that's a nice value. Danny Lee is going to be a guy who's going to be in the high 8 to low 9,000 range during most of the season. So when you see him down here at 7,500, he's definitely a guy that when I'm looking up top and I want to put a Bubba in there or maybe even a Spieth, Danny Lee is going to be a guy that goes into a lot of lineups, and I don't necessarily know. He can be wildly unpredictable some weeks, but you take a little bit of that in GPP because it can help you out when he's on the upside. I think there'll probably be a lot of people who do own him at that price, but he's a guy who will fit pretty well into some of my lineups there too. Do you see anybody at the bottom that you like?
I'll pick one guy and you pick one guy from the bottom that you would find tolerable to roster.
Tolerable, right?
Tolerable.
Yeah. This is like. When I say tolerable, what I mean by that is it's 2:30 in the morning. The bar is closing.
Oh, jeez.
You and your buddies are standing outside. You're looking at the lineup that's flowing out, and you're saying to your buddy, which one do you
And you're
find...
saying Steven Bowditch.
Yeah, you look and you're saying, that eyebrow game is strong right there.
I will overlook the eyebrows and roster you, Steven Bowditch.
Yeah, Steven Bowditch, you took mine.
Was that your one?
And then you and I are fighting outside of the bar as she gets into her Uber and goes home.
So Stephanie Bowditch is yours.
Perfect.
I'm going to go with Peter Malnati.
Okay.
And the reason is because no one knows who this guy is. He came from the Web.com tour. He played in the fall. People were watching football. He's going to be massively underowned. He can roll the ball with the best of them on the PGA Tour. And he's shown that he can play. He can pop up because he won an event in the fall. So I think those are all reasons enough. He won't be owned by 1% of the field just because it's such a small field and there aren't that many options. But I think he will be owned by under 10% of the field, and I think that will be enough if he plays well.
He's a young guy who could make some noise this year. Came up to the tour, struggled a bit, went back down, focused just on the Web.com last year, had marginal success, and then something clicked in the fall, and he started to play pretty well.
That's who I'll go with.
So now I suppose I have to go with Bowditch. Now you've kind of conceded, and maybe I want to take a step back and have another look. No, Bowditch is a good play this week. He hits the ball. He hits it long. He can get himself into trouble. Like he's like a lot of the other guys that we looked at. He's like a Jimmy Walker Jr. kind of type in terms of skill this week. He can get into trouble off the tee, but he should have a little bit of latitude this week. And he does tend to be a pretty good putter. So he does have that. And when you look at him, what is the price there? $6,900
for who?
No, $6,800.
$6,800. Yeah.
So there's four guys below him there.
Right.
You got Henry, Gomez, Every, and Merritt. So like, I think that is the bottom where you want to start.
And you would rather pass out on your own puke than take JJ Henry? Is that what I'm taking?
This isn't a puking kind of night. I'm still, if I haven't been thrown out of the bar, if I have walked out of my own volition at 2:30, it's been an okay night so far. So I think we're still in a functional. This is a functional decision.
Okay, all right, functional decision.
Yes, yep.
So that's all we got for this week's field. Next week we'll be doing the Sony Open. Anything else? You're going to do Periscope on Wednesday night?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's back.
What time are you doing that?
We'll say 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. Tune in to Zachary doing Periscope. He'll answer your last minute questions, give you an up-to-date weather report, things like that. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Best of luck to all of you this week. Do well, and we'll see you next week.
Good luck. Let's have a great season. Well, they already know I was at Lambeau last week.
I want to see the Cordell Patterson chuckle on the sidelines after he almost blows the game for the Vikings.
I know. I was
like,
looking.
Are you the dumbest person ever? He's on the sidelines yucking it up. I fumbled.
I didn't see that.
I'm sure that. Oh, well, yeah, you were there. So, but yeah, they're showing Cordell. He's laughing and
the kicker stripped him. The fucking
the kicker caught him and stripped him.
Caught him, and you can see it right in front of you, coming towards me on the side.
You know, this is a guy who also high stepped on a kick return when they were down
28-0 at the Seahawks. 28 or 35-0.
Yeah, and he's high-stepping in the end zone showboating.
Yeah,
go away, Cordero.
I'm giving you the fucking finger, Cordero. This one's for you, buddy.